Hi, I'm Kerry Crafton, instructor for the Advanced DAW class at MediaTech Institute, and today we're going to go over doing drum replacement. So there's a couple of reasons for doing drum replacement. One is just the drums don't sound good. You want them to sound better. Sometimes it's because they're poorly recorded. Sometimes it's because you can increase the separation. You can cut down the bleed in the tracks and between tracks and kind of clean things up a little bit. And the other thing is, it just allows you to have exactly the drum sound you want. You're not stuck with what was recorded. A lot of times, by the time the song's developed, you want a different drum sound than you recorded, so you can change it. So those are kind of all the reasons, and we're going to kind of go through the process. Now, first, I'll play you a little bit. This is some tracks that I recorded 2 or 3 years ago. This particular one was kind of toward the end of the day. The drums were really getting out of tune, and we can fix it up a little bit. So let's play a minute of that. And as you can see, they're okay tracks. It's not terrible. I could do something with it as is, and that really is totally just as it was recorded, nothing at all done to it yet. But we're about to. Let me go ahead and kill those two. All right, so let's look at what we're going to do is start replacing the drums. I'm going to start with the kick drum, and I'll just work on it first. Now, the program I'm going to use is Slate Trigger. I've been using Slate Trigger since they came out with it. I've used it a lot. You've all heard it on a lot of records, and it's very popular and used in a lot of places. So let's go through how it works. Now this is the interface here. The browser is where you go to select sounds. It comes with some presets that will give you more than one drum sound. It will have a set just like we're fixing to build. I'm going to kind of build it on my own. So if I was going to go through the kicks, you can see we have a wide range of kick sounds available here. Some of them will kind of be aimed at sounding like someone, like an artist. Obviously, AC kick supposed to be AC/DC. The black kick is from Metallica album. Blimp kick would be Led Zeppelin. Chili kick, Dan kick, Dream Theater, Green Day. And on, and plus just a bunch of just numbered ones. Never kick, obviously, we're talking about trying to do a Nevada thing. Panty kicks kind of like an old hairband snare. You have a lot of choices. Now, in each one, as we open it up here, you'll see when you click down and open one up, that you normally will have 4 files there. You will have, and let me make sure the audition is on. When you hit the audition, this will let you hear and audition the sounds. So we have Z3, Z1, and pretty much on all of these you will find that Z3 is a tight miking. Z1 has just a bit more room in it. So it has a little bit more room character. And then you'll have, like in this case, we have 2 different ambiances. That is Stephen Slate's drum room, and that is the drum room at NRG Studios. So between those, you can pick any of those to put together. You can use, strictly the ones from this, or you can kind of do like I like to do. I like to kind of mix them up and kind of build a kick drum the way I want it. This one I find particularly good for just getting attack. If I just want to bring in some head into the kick drum, where it's getting a little more transient there, I can certainly do that with that. Or the black kick. The black kick's even more so. Black kick is very, very good for, just bringing in some definition to the kick. But I have kind of gone through that. So right now I've already kind of pulled in the black kick, the old Zeppelin with a little bit more of the room on it, Red Hot Chili Peppers kick, and just a little bit of that ambience there from that. Now, when we go to triggering, and you can select up to 8 different sounds. You can change them as you want. You can add them up. They don't have to all come from the same. You can kind of build it, the custom sound you want. So if we go over to triggering, we'll see this is where we start to put it to work. So obviously with mixers, we can mix with the levels of the instruments we want, of the kick files we've chosen. And the input level will come in here and show us. And so let's just start. I'll start playing a little bit of it. We'll kind of look how it works. So you can see that every time the kick plays on the recording, it sends an input here and triggers it. And it keeps the actual volume level, the dynamics of the kick drum as it plays. And the white lines here are our detail. That lets us set this. This is like the threshold for the trigger. I set this so that small enough that I get all the triggers, but big enough that I don't get any kind of bleed underlying sounds like bleed from the kick or something. Or if it's on the snare, or bleed from the snare if it's on the kick. So let's play through this a minute. Now, right now, we're kind of hitting the very top. Now, the input level is also going to set the velocity layer that you're hitting. So I'm going to turn down the input here just a little bit so that I keep all my triggers coming in here and not totally blown out. Now, we've got real good separation here, so I'm not really going to have to worry too much about the detail. But you can see if I go, as soon as it starts, if I go too high, if I have it set too high, I don't get all the kick drums. What I want to do is bring it down low enough so that I'm getting accurate hits from all the kick drums. And as you can see, they also vary wildly. We just want to make sure we catch them all, but not anything extra. In this track, that's pretty easy. So now we've kind of got that set. Our input level is good. We can also go through, let's go to the settings right quick and I'll show you through, what I want to go is the curves. So this is, since these are samples and they're digital samples, we can mess with the, attack, sustain, release. For a kick drum, it's pretty short. We don't have to do them. Kick drums don't last very long. The original sound will land up to 10 seconds. We don't need to go that long. So I've kind of got these cut down because, especially on toms or something, you can use this to set it so that cut the sound off so the tom doesn't ring out too long. We'll see that when we get to the toms in a minute. But this allows you to adjust that, kind of the attack, the sustain, the release of the sample itself. The bottom half here is where we can really control the dynamics and make this get this consistent but sounding natural. So if am I clicking these, I can combine it so that all the samples will react the same. And let's go through how this works. Now this is dynamics. Normally it'd be dynamics 100% and velocity there at 50. So this would just represent exactly, we'd put in the same dynamics that it received. But we want to kind of change that a little bit. First, I want the dynamics to be not as wide a range as they are. So by doing this, I'm cutting down actual dynamic range of the kick drum about 50%. Now, if I go to the velocity, what I can do here is turn this up. So instead of a steady, input equals output curve all the way to the top, I can start as it gets more to the upper levels, it will start getting into them a little faster. Again, this just kind of lets the drums keep more consistent, more like they're hitting really hard. And the other thing is the range. Now, each of these samples will be up to 56 different layers. So whenever you trigger a sample, you're basically getting, there's a stack of samples laying there. And your velocity level will determine which one of those samples plays. So those samples go from really very soft, just barely hitting the kick drum in this case, to absolutely nailing it at the other end. Now, our velocities range from 0 down to down and on down. So I'm going to cut that up a little bit and go a little faster. And then on my range goes from 0 to 127. So I want to restrict that so that I'm not getting all these softer kick samples. I'm just getting a certain range of them. This will let me keep some dynamics in it, but not make it where it's just, inconsistent, where I have kick drums popping out or being missed. So this will help it play much more consistent. So we're reducing the range of samples we're using. We're getting into our upper velocity layers faster, and we're using a little less dynamics. Now that won't show on the screen because this is showing input, but it will be heard. Now, as you can hear, we're seeing the variation, but we're getting a pretty good consistent kick drum. It's there all the time, but it still has some dynamics. It's not exactly the same kick hit every time. In fact, it's a different sample every time it hits a different velocity layer. So that's where we're kind of set up there. Now, if we go back to the mixer. On the mixer, we not only have volume we can change, obviously we can change pans. On a kick drum, we're just going to want it centered. We can solo the individual sounds as we're playing it to check things out. But you can also tune them. Now, to me, this is also another big advantage of using some drum replacement samples, is that I can tune them so that they sound in tune with the track. Most people don't think of drums as having a pitch, but they all do. And especially some drums will have a very distinct tone and definite frequency they're hitting. So you want to be able to tune that so it sounds like it fits in with the other notes in the song. I'm real big on tuning the kick drums, and especially on hip-hop stuff, the 808s and everything, so that they are in the correct tune with the song. So let's kind of listen to our kick drum. Let's skip forward here to a little different session and listen through that kick drum, see how it's working. I'm going to kick the volume, the input up just a touch. There we go. So we're getting a nice, good range of dynamics, but it's very controlled. I think that's working pretty well. Now, the sound of it is a totally individual thing. When I get the rest of the instruments in, I would know more about how much attack I want to get it to cut through the mix. Again, if I need more, there's the Metallica kick to bring up. If I want a little more room in it inside and the end, I've got room here I can bring in. So I've got all the elements I need here. I kind of like this basic. The great thing about this is I can continue to change it as I add instruments in, and I see what works and what doesn't and what it needs. But for now, I think I'm pretty happy with that kick drum. So let's go to the snare. Now again, the snare for just a minute, the way it is. So you can see we're getting it's kind of out of tune with itself. It's not sounding great, but we're going to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn trigger on here. And I've kind of gone through and picked some samples I like. I've got the Metallica Black Snare. Again, that was such an abrasive record on the drums that sample makes a nice attack if you want to add some to it. A little fatter, kind of normal sounding snare. This is one of Stephen Slate's drums, Snare 15, I like a lot. And then I've got the ambience for that. So on the triggering side, again, obviously with the snare pans, you're going to all be there. Tune, I will tune them. We have only drums right now. I'm going to kind of leave them where they are for the moment. As I brought in other instruments later, we'd probably involve the tuning more. So I've got those 4 sounds, and we'll play that a minute. Again, I'm going to go ahead and kind of set the level here a little bit so I'm getting a good full signal, but not just hitting the top all the time. And again, I've got such good separation, I'm not going to have trouble with detail. He does do some quiet stuff. Let's go to that very top. That'd be the chick. I see this is where I was going to check. That's there I wanted to check right there, because you can see we're not getting enough signal to play all those lower notes. So I'm going to kind of loop that here for a minute and set that. Now this is where you're going to set the detail and make that work. So I'm going to obviously got to bring it down. Right. Now it's working good. We've got all of those, but you see I had to get that detail down within the limits of that input signal. And the same thing over here, I've kind of gone through and shortened them a little bit. The snare can kind of hang out, so I don't have anything, not doing too much radical to it. Again, I'm kind of reducing the levels, the range of samples it can play to 90 through 122. Again, I have the dynamics cut down. I have the velocity set on the curve, so it goes into the higher levels a little faster, just like before. And play the 2 of those together for a second. And of course, the idea is to mix these in with everything. So, and I've also got, the bottom snare mic will actually, excuse me, will actually help that a lot to sound more natural and more real, because you'll be hearing that mixed in with it. So let's hear what that sounds like a sec. We're getting there pretty good. Now, I do have room mics and overheads and everything in here, which kind of, again, they're carrying the originals. That's why I'm not doing anything drastically different, just kind of improvement on. But that organic sound of the drums in the room will also help kind of keep it where, again, the idea is when we get to the end, we don't want anybody to know we did anything. We want to do all this work and then make it sound like nobody did anything. It's just the way they were recorded. Now let's find the toms and work on them a little bit. I think this tom roll right there will be good. So that's our toms raw, and they sound pretty all right, really, but we can fix those again a lot. One thing here, this is going to help, is when you hear when they're not playing, how much ringing of the drums we have and stuff going on in the background, bleed. Now, yeah, we can use gates to clean up some of that, but this lets us do this kind of the same thing and clean it up even more. So let's start with that first tom. I'm going to set that roll again to loop. And again, I've gone, in this case, I'm using, I think, old Zepp drums. I kind of like the old natural sounding drums too, but same thing we can go through here. You can choose whatever you want. There's metal toms, maple toms, new metal toms, new maples. And same kind of idea. Each of these is going to have a close, a little bit more room in that one, and then the same two ambiences, Stephen Slate and NRG. In this case, I'm kind of liking that and a little bit of its own ambient. So I'll kind of use that as the basis for these three. I'll use the same set, but obviously different sizes. So let's listen through here a sec. Now let's fix this guy here. There we go. Now we'll get him turned on. It cleans it up a lot. Let's look at that a little bit. Now I think on the curves I do have the ambience, not on the drums, but on the ring of the toms. You can see I've got it cut down. If I turn these back up, you can hear how long they ring. Now, some of them ring much longer. This is not too terribly bad, but I do want to tighten those up. So I'm going to bring down to about a 1/4 second on sustain area, and then on the release, again, well down under a second. Yeah, I kind of like it about like that. Again, we're going to get a lot of coverage for the release from the room. That's sounding pretty good. Let's see what this guy, what can we do with this guy? And let's turn that one on. That one feels like it has a bit too much of the ambience on it. Again, all this really will be finalized, when you're in the full mix, but you have it set up to go. So let's hear those three now. Now, we can pan these out. Obviously, what I'm kind of doing is I'm leaving them and panning the returns because I have them separated. So each one I'm just leaving center, but I'm keeping the stereo of it, but then leaning the stereo, as you can see how I've got them panned here, so that tom 1 is to the left, this is centered, this is more to the right. But I am still keeping the full ambient, not using them as strict monos at all. Let's kick back over. Now we'll kick everything in and listen through for a minute. keep checking. I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit and check down here, those tom area. And we'll replace some toms at the end. Those are pretty clear. Now, here's another little trick you can do. Now, he kind of, although he was hitting both these drums, you can see on the second hit of this, he really didn't hit that floor tom that hard. Let me ungroup. Let me turn groups off. So what I want to do is I want to go in here and find this floor tom that he kind of didn't hit very hard, and I'm going to separate it. And then zoom in a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Clip gain it up. Now it will trigger better and we'll be able to hear both toms. There we go. That's better. And so you can kind of always do that. If there's a snare that's slightly missed or, anything like that, if they're not even in the toms, you can go in and, again, this is the level that's going to trigger. So all I got to do is just cut that one drum off, separate it, turn it up a little bit, and now I'll get a good trigger out of it too. There we go. Now, again, that's just the beginning start on those drums, and everything has to be adjusted to what you add to it later as you add instruments. But you have it all set up where you can do that real easily. If you need more attack, if you need less attack, if you need more room sound, fatten them up. If you need to tune the drums so that when he does those nice big rolls there, that they fit in this track, and you're all set to go. So there we go. And I don't think it sounds like we did too much. I think it sounds like we could have recorded it just like that. That's kind of the idea. But that's a little beginning intro to drum replacement. And I hope you enjoyed it. And this is something you're going to need to learn to use. This is just the way it is now. You hear this on the radio, and on every song you hear, pretty much you hear some kind of drum replacement. And really, as a mixer, I love it because it lets me have my choices on sounds all the way till I get finished. So I'm not just stuck with what I imagined they were going to need to sound like when I began the song, or when we cut the tracks. We can actually adjust it all the way. So that's kind of how it goes. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. That's the main thing. Did we learn anything today? Okay? You come back around. We're going to have some more of these. Thanks for watching.